Okay, I will do it. Um,
Okay.
let me just start with that.
Thank you. It's hard. If I had three arms, I could do everything simultaneously.
All right. Um, let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Welcome. Greetings. This is the August 17th meeting of the Rotary Club of Raleigh. We're so glad that everyone is able to join us today. We've got another wonderful program in store. For those of you who've been kind of chatting here before the meeting started, we have John Loyack with the Global Business Services for Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. And I know he has a lot of interesting things to share with us. I've already heard some interesting and somewhat disturbing things about North Carolina exports, and I know that's a part of what we're going to be hearing about. So you're not going to want to miss that. So thank you so much for joining in. And to get us started, let's turn the program over to our Director of Administration, Richard Watkins, for the invocation and the pledge.
Thank you all very, very much. And I hope that everyone is doing well on the call. I know we're all experiencing our own separate and unique experiences dealing with these unprecedented times. And I know that this poem, which will serve as my invocation, which is actually uncredited on the website that I got it from, will not mean much to everyone, but I feel that there is somebody on the call that it will mean something to. And so for that one person, that two person, or however many people that it affects, it's this one is for you. And it's called Perfect. My heart flows through this icy land. Come and take my lonely hand. Show me how to make things right. Cry these tears no more tonight. Sing this sorrowful song into the air. Try to live without a care. Look up at the stars in the sky. Dry those tears from your eye. Lift your head. Bring your smile back. Paint your world with color instead of black. Undo lies and make them true. Don't let your anger take over you. Open your eyes. What do you see? There are so many things that you could be. If instead of thinking, you actually tried and forgot about those tears that you have cried, you could be living in a world of hope and letting go and learning how to cope with everything life throws your way and living your fullest every day. You can force the shadows back to the dark, leave without a single scratch or mark. You can learn to live without your pain, without putting yourself through such a strain. You can learn all this if you only realize it only matters what is perfect in your own eyes. So hopefully that meant something to somebody. And if you're going through hard times right now, you will be in my thoughts and prayers. And now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, beautiful
For
spacious sky,
spacious
forever waves of grain, for
purple
mountain
mountain
majesty.
majesty.
Oh,
Above
above
the
the plain.
plain,
America, America,
God
God
shed
shed His
His grace
grace on
on thee,
thee, and
and crown
crowned
thy
thy
good with
with
brotherhood
from
from sea
sea to
to shining
shining sea.
sea. Thank you very much for
Thanks,
that.
Richard.
Thank you. You made me sing better, I believe. Now over to Linda. Thank you, Linda.
Hi, I'm just wondering if we have any guests today. I have not heard of any, but if you are a guest today, please unmute yourself and introduce yourself. I don't believe we have any though. No? Okay. Well, then I will turn it over to Eric for Cart Happy Dollars and Amazon Smile announcements.
All right. So we'll start with Cart. Please send an email or a chat to Linda if you want to donate some money to the Cart bucket. We still have the strong need for Alzheimer's research, even though we can't place our dollar bills in the blue buckets. So please keep that need continuing in mind, and let's continue to support the CART program. I believe we'll go ahead now. First of all, do we have any happy dollars?
Yes, I actually have happy dollars, or
Okay.
should I say apology dollars. And these apology dollars are in the name of Alex, who worked very hard to put together the social and the fundraising activity. And I made a promise to her that I would buy a ticket, and the deadline came and went. And so because of that, I do apologize. And in her name and on her behalf, I contribute $80.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard. And I know of at least one other happy announcement that I think we're going to save for just a little bit. So for now, why don't we move on? Let's see. Let me tell you a little bit about our upcoming meetings. Next week, we're going to hear from the new district governor, David Hayden, about his plans for the district for this coming year. So please join us with our district governor next week. And then the following week, August 31st, we're not going to have a formal program, but we are going to send out an invitation, and we're going to have just a social during our normal meeting hour. So if anybody is available and wants to spend just a little bit of time chatting with their Rotary friends, join us on August 31st. No program, no particular agenda, just some time with friends if you are interested and available. And then on September the 7th, we're going to have our traditional Labor Day holiday. So that's our upcoming schedules, and looking forward to seeing you all. And for now, let's turn the program over to our president-elect, Charles Edwards, for an update on the mask sales.
Thank you, President Eric. Good afternoon, everybody. We actually raised $800. We had 40 masks for sale, not the 35 that I had thought, which is wonderful. So we're working with Tom Packard, the treasurer, to get the money sent to Overflowing Hands sometime this week. I know that will mean a lot to them. That will be the equivalent of being able to feed 6 students in the Wake County public school system for a month, or the equivalent thereof. However they use the money, we don't know. But thank you to everybody who bought the masks. Wear them with pride. I do all the time. Good job for everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Charles. I've been wearing my Rotary mask a lot too. I've got it with me today, and you know it's great. It's not only a nice mask, but you know it's great to be able to sort of have that advertisement for Rotary right there on your face. All right, let's go ahead and hear from Alex about our upcoming fundraiser.
Okay, I will make this pretty short. I just wanted to remind everybody, for those of you that did purchase a ticket for the fundraiser on Thursday, that pickup for the wine and chocolate packages begins today. So they will, the pickup times are today through Wednesday from 1 to 3 p.m. You can pick the materials up at the Wells Fargo building. Please use their Salisbury Street entrance. Whenever you get there, you'll just have to call the receptionist and let them know that you're there to pick up the materials for the Rotary fundraiser, and they will run the package down to your car, so you don't even have to get out of your car. The phone number was circulated in an email that Linda sent out earlier today. Thank you, Linda. If anybody needs that phone number, please just let me know. I also wanted to let you know that if you weren't able to RSVP, or if you're not able to attend on Thursday, we would still love donations if you're able to make one. Again, just want to stress that this is a club fundraiser, and so we can't continue to do all of the good work that we do for the Raleigh community without money. So if you're able to make a donation and you haven't yet, we would encourage that as well. And then last but not least, for those of you that did purchase a ticket, we do have additional raffle tickets available for purchase. So if you haven't purchased any additional raffle tickets and you would like more, please let me or Linda or Gina know, and we will get that taken care of for you. Other than that, I'd like to thank everybody that did sign up. We're really looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so we're really looking forward to Thursday. If anybody has any questions between now and then, just let me know. Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot, Alex. I know I'm looking forward to Thursday, to enjoying some wine with many of you, and some chocolate as well, and some fellowship. So thank you for putting that all together, Alex. It's going to be a great time. All right, Gina, can you tell us a little bit about the upcoming day of service?
Yes, hey guys. Sorry I'm not on video. I'm traveling, and so the lighting's not the best in the room I'm in right now, but hello everybody. Happy Monday. As a reminder, next year, save the date, we are having a day of service event. The entire district will be getting together. The location will be to be determined, but most likely the starting off point will be in Southeast Raleigh. And we are spearheading the planning aspect of it. This is a vision from our district governor, David Hayden, and he has asked us to contribute in terms of leading the efforts. So we are going to be working with a lot of the district clubs for this big day of service. And if Linda wants to go to the next slide, that would be great. So thinking about what goes into planning a big day of service, one of them will be a kickoff meeting with the different clubs in our district and kind of getting their buy-in as well as insight into making this a great event. We've had some preliminary internal meetings about what our vision of this day of service will look like, and we're going to start furthering these efforts in the next couple of months. So Linda's going to be sending out an email to the club. So if you want to join me on Wednesday at 5:30 while we do this kickoff, I'd love to have you. And if you guys have any questions, just email me or give me a call, or I'll be willing to take them right now.
Great. Thank you so much, Gina. I'm looking forward to this meeting on Thursday, and this is going to be, a really big, exciting, fun event for not only our club, but for all of the local Rotary clubs. So let's all get excited and realize that we have that in the works. All right. Next, Linda, do you want to give a short update about the goings on at the Southeast Raleigh Club?
Yes, the Southeast Raleigh Club is doing fantastic. They've had some wonderful speakers. This last Tuesday, they are prepping for the 4-way test and are very gung-ho about this. They also did a wonderful spotlight with Gwen Swinson, who is a big champion of Rotary and mentions a lot about how when other groups did not welcome her and were not as interested in promoting diversity, Rotary was one of the first groups that did. So she's a great champion for Rotary. Occasionally she has joined our meeting, and if you all ever want to join the meeting, please contact me. They meet every Tuesday evening at 6:30, and they're very prompt. It's exactly 6:30 to 7:30.
Thanks a lot, Linda. That Southeast Raleigh Club is something that we can justifiably be proud to have had a hand in helping those people get started. They're off to a wonderful start. They've got close to 20 members, and they have great programs, great speakers, and we're just so happy to have played a role in helping them get off the ground. All right, now we're going to share some announcements. So we've got some birthdays coming up. David Forrest, your birthday is August 19. It's Wednesday. Matt Munoz is 21st. And then we've already seen in the chat that Kevin and Judy are celebrating their 1-year anniversary. So congratulations to Kevin. Bill and Edith Simpson are celebrating their anniversary on the 20th, and Chuck and Patsy Caldwell on the 21st. So congratulations to all of you all. And now, if Dana, if you are available, we have a very special announcement that Dana would like to make.
Oh, thank you, Eric. I hope everyone is doing well. It's so good to be able to come to a meeting after so long. It's so good to see everyone. I do have some news. Some of you may know that I and my husband and I have had problems conceiving within the last like 4 to 6 years. And so we do have some really happy news that we decided to get a surrogate, and the surrogate is pregnant, and we have a baby that's due November 28th. So that's our happy news, and I'll definitely be sending some happy dollars. But we really feel blessed, and I'm really happy to share some good news with you today.
Yeah. That's very exciting. Thank you so much, Dana. And what great news to have a Thanksgiving baby. So happy about that. And of course, we also are still grateful for our other recent arrivals. Amelia Diane, the daughter of Pete and Jennifer Ciccone, and Amelia Ann, daughter of Taylor and Lauren McBain. So Dana, we're looking forward to your Amelia coming up soon.
Yes. Oh, 2 Amelias. Oh, isn't that cute? Oh my gosh.
But anyway, so good to hear about all these young new Rotarians. And with that happy news, I'm now going to turn the program over to Charles Edwards to introduce our speaker.
Thank you. And I will be kind, John, because I know you can get back to me. I've had the pleasure of knowing John for quite a few years. He's a a great resource that we have here in the state of North Carolina. He is the Vice President of Global Business Services for the EDPNC, Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, which I guess is about 5 or 6 years old now. It's the nonprofit organization that performs a variety of critical economic development functions in concert with the North Carolina Department of Commerce. John specifically leads a team of about 10 people who help North Carolina manufacturers sell more products, is very invested and very involved in helping existing and new companies grow, and also counseling entrepreneurs to start their own small businesses. EDPNC has a variety of other tasks, including promotion of tourism and film production, and also recruiting new industries. Prior to his role at EDPNC, John was the Director of International Trade for the North Carolina Department of Commerce. But he also has, and I think this is very important, has 25 years of experience in new product development for a variety of companies, including Mercury EMD, Thomson Reuters, United States Surgical, and Estee Labs. He has a BA in economics and Spanish from Gettysburg. He's actually totally fluent in Spanish, which again is very helpful in this day and age. And has an MBA in international business from Thunderbird. He's a certified global business professional. I could go on and on. Sits on a variety of boards, including the North Carolina Coalition for Global Competitiveness. We sit on that board together. He's also on the board of Global NC. He's on the North Carolina Apprenticeship Council, the NC MEP Advisory Board, and also the Board of Advisors of the North Carolina Japan Center, which is based over at NC State. So without further ado, welcome John Loyack. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Charles. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can all see today's presentation. Does that look good?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
And Dana, let me throw out congratulations to you. And I'll just add, my wife's birthday is on the 26th of November. It occasionally lands on Thanksgiving, like this year. And she loves it. She makes the most of it. So it's a good birthday.
Well, thank you so much.
So as Charles mentioned, I'm with the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina. And for those of you who maybe weren't paying attention to the exciting world of economic development 6 years ago, this is a group that was carved out of the Department of Commerce under the McCrory administration. Doing something like that, privatizing a state entity, is something that's happened in 18 different states around the US. And so this is not something that was dissimilar to what others are doing. Enterprise Florida is one that was actually founded back in 1991. So this is something that I view as kind of a good trend. And the idea is to create a nonprofit. We're a 501c3, but one that essentially acts a little bit differently than state agencies can. And I'm happy to take any of the questions that you all might have, but it is, for us, one of the most important things is by the level of engagement. And so we're very focused on our level of engagement and making sure that we are acting more like the business community than state agency. So for today, I just want to cover off on 3 topics. I've got a lot of slides here today, and I know that we're maybe limited on time, but let me cover some of these. I'm happy to take questions as we go along. I love the interactive presentations. If we don't get through it all, I'll make sure to provide the slides out to you all so you can see what's going on. But excuse me, trying to forward my slides. Okay, got it. This organization, though, I think the important thing that I would like you all to take away from it in terms of what we do, as Charles mentioned, we're focused on business recruitment. We're focused on travel and tourism. I'm going to talk about how COVID has impacted some of those areas. But the three groups that I manage are all focused on existing industry. And so that's our existing industry team. We've got 8 people out across the state covering all 100 counties. We've got an international trade team that's very focused on helping exporters. It's extremely important at this particular situation. I mean, this is the kind of thing that helped us. You know, dedication to exporting is something that got us out of the last recession. And then small business counseling. So I'm going to walk through some of the different things that are impacting each one of these groups. On the existing industry side, you all were there with us. Very early on, we were hearing from businesses who wanted to know, what is an essential industry and how do I make sure that I am considered one? Because if the governor does issue a stay-at-home mandate, we want to make sure that my business is able to stay open. And so we are taking a lot of questions from folks around there. To be honest, the situation that we're in is not one that anyone was necessarily prepared for. I would say in terms of some bumps that we felt early on, it was definitely this. I mean, here in North Carolina, we know what to do when a hurricane hits and we close down highways, and people may have to apply for a re-entry permit, but something like this and closing down the economy of North Carolina was not something that we were necessarily prepared to do. What we were hearing from businesses really were that they all began to prepare. I think some of the best case scenarios were businesses that were temporarily furloughing employees. In the best cases, some of them were even keeping their employees paid and saying, hey, go home, 2 weeks of paid time off, come back when we get through all this. And the thinking was, if those of you remember back as far to March, we were thinking that this is something that could pass quickly. I was seeing presentations by renowned economists who are showing us this very quick recovery that we are going to see. Clearly that hasn't happened. And so businesses have gone through those issues now where they've had to lay people off now, and I'll talk about some of the challenges they're facing along the way. There's a lot of anxiety overall in regard to some of the SBA programs. So as I mentioned, this is something that we do have some experience with these types of emergency situations. When wildfires hit the West, when there's a tornado comes through the Piedmont Triad, if the hurricanes hit the coast, we know what to do and we know what kind of programs are going to come in. We know how quickly FEMA can get in on the scene and how the SBA is going to come in and help some of these situations. This one was a little bit different, obviously. And so the good news is we have organizations like the Golden Leaf Foundation and the Rural Center and other, this whole host of nonprofit lenders who lined up to provide very zero interest bridge loans early on. And so very early on, we were seeing businesses who were looking to that for some kind of support while they were waiting for the SBA programs to come through. One of the best stories that we saw that continues to evolve is that of businesses who have decided, okay, we're impacted in a certain way, but we're going to pivot. We understand that this nation needs personal protection equipment. We're going to start making some of that. So we had some really interesting stories of businesses who would call us to say, hey, we make socks. We think we can make masks. How can you all help us? And we got some of those businesses up and running to make sure that they were able to do what they needed to do. And the hope is that there's an industry, there is no question there is an industry, but our hope is to begin to land some of that permanently and keep that here. On the tourism side, in terms of visitor spending, North Carolina is one of the strongest states in the union. We were the number 6th most visited state in the union. That may surprise many of you, but if you think about it, if you were just to list out some of the big states that you would expect would be major tourism locations, places like California, Texas, Florida, New York, there's 4 right away. So only Pennsylvania, they're the only one that was ahead of us in terms of the visitors coming in. We saw a lot of international visitors growing too. North Carolina was definitely a spot that was being viewed by many as a great location to come, whether you're coming to the cities, whether you're coming to play golf, the beach, the mountains, whatever it might be. Sadly, this is one of the industries that was crushed early on. Their big time of year, obviously, begins in the spring, and so spring break trips were being canceled. Think of all the convention centers in the state. Think about all the visitors bureaus and what they were dealing with. All the hotels, all the restaurants, all the beach shops, everyone impacted by that. A lot of those are privately owned small businesses that were impacted by this. And this is something that we knew right away. With all of these occupancy tax dropping, this is something that's going to have a long-term impact. To put things in perspective, this, the visitor spending here in North Carolina last year, they hit an all-time high, just over $26 billion spent by visitors coming here to this state. We know already that that's taken at least a $6 billion hit so far this year. So those are significant losses for that industry. We are definitely, I'd be happy to talk a little bit about employment levels. We're seeing some interesting things there, but some of the data that we were seeing 2 or 3 months into the pandemic were that the tourism industry, so for restaurants and hotels and others, we might have lost 50% of the jobs in that industry. And so that is one that is going to struggle for some time. Our General Assembly has given us a number of different things that will help us fight back and bring those visitors back when the time is right, but it is very slowly coming. On the small business side of things, we have a team that we call Business Link that operates out of EDPNC. This is a team that's on the business end of a 1-800 number. 1-800-228-8443 for anyone who can write quickly, and I'll provide that number to you all. This, in the best of times, this is a group of people who are very busy at the beginning of any year. January is typically a time when we see a lot of people calling and asking about starting a business. In a best case scenario, as I mentioned, this is about starting businesses and folks calling in to understand how to establish an LLC in the state, how to make sure they're paying their taxes properly, how to get through some of the forms that are available on the Department of Revenue or Secretary of State's office. And so these are people who act as counselors to small businesses all over the state, of which last year we were closing in on 900,000 small businesses. Now, when the pandemic hit, all of that changed. So it wasn't necessarily calls about starting a business. It was calls about making those unemployment insurance claims. How do I apply for that? I'm a single employee owned business. How do I apply for some of this? And to be personally frank, there wasn't a lot that was available for some businesses early on. And so as the Golden Leaf program, as the SBA programs, as those became available, a lot of calls were coming into this group and they were funneling them out, helping direct traffic to the right resource. Overall, it was a lot of the questions and the calls that we were taking were about recovery resources, but believe it or not, it's something that shows you the resilience of the people here in the U.S. in general and in North Carolina. A lot of folks who were impacted and lost their job were very quickly trying to dust themselves off and start a business up. And so we saw a steady increase of business startup calls as well. On the international trade side, as we sit down and analyze all of this in years to come, what we'll see is some of the first warning signs of, what was coming. We're seeing through this international trade team. So as of October, November of last year, as this was impacting China, we were getting a lot of questions from businesses here who were saying that their supply chains were being disrupted in one way or another. That was something that kind of gave us a sign of what was to come. When you have to shut down an automobile plant in China for a number of weeks, that's something that ultimately is going to reach back into Rowan County, North Carolina, believe it or not. It may take a little time to get here, but it did. All of the international trade events that we do, and this is a team that on a good year, we do somewhere between 35 to 40 different international trade events. What I mean by that is the state of North Carolina organizes an event. So our international trade team will put up a booth at some kind of an international trade event. It could be the Dubai Air Show. It could be a medical device show in Thailand. And we bring North Carolina companies along with us to take advantage of what we can put forward. But as of probably the second week in February, all that started to shut down. We started hearing everyone was trying to postpone it first, but then they were just flatly canceled. At this point, we're hearing from businesses that they may not be really up and ready to travel again internationally until first quarter of 2022. And that's what's coming from some businesses, which may come as a bit of a surprise to folks. But at the end of the day, you know, I think folks realize that we're in a very different situation than we've ever been in. So now is a good time to kind of stay at home, take a look at our website. How do we prepare this to be our best tool if we're not able to go to some of these shows? And there's some other interesting things that are coming out of that. But, you know, definitely a group that early on saw what was coming. You know, our business recruitment team is, you know, for those of you who were watching as Raleigh was, you know, one of the top 10 candidates for Amazon's HQ2 project, this was the team that was leading it. So these are the folks who are working with businesses all over the state who are considering coming to North Carolina. And this team has been, they've been very active. We did see early on the pipeline did shrink a bit. We were down to about 75% of what we typically see by April, May. That may not seem too overwhelming. We've seen a number of very large projects this year. And so Broadband announced they were doing over 1,000 jobs on Centennial campus. Centene recently announced 3,200 jobs out in Charlotte. So we have seen a fair share of very large projects still coming our way. And so, yeah, the numbers won't look terrible for this year, but by and large, the pipeline is definitely much less than it had been. This is a team that typically will get into a car and take a group of delegates or site selection consultants and clients all over the state. We load them up in a car, we load them up in a minivan that we've got, and we'll take them out to see properties all over the state. That obviously from March and through July just shut down. It was the very end of July that we began to see people beginning to come back and begin to want to schedule some of these appointments. And of course, we have to do that very differently than we did in the past. You know, the days of putting 5 people into a minivan and driving them out to Allegheny County are not there anymore. And so we'll just split up and we'll meet everybody with the proper masks on and socially distance in a way that we can do it. But definitely saw a decrease in some of the work there. At this point, more of the opportunities that we're seeing right now are from existing industry that's expanding rather than new businesses coming in. We're still seeing some of those opportunities for new businesses, but we're seeing a lot of businesses who have now weathered the first few months of this and for one reason or another, maybe considering an expansion. I took a call from someone with the News and Observer last week who was asking about some of the businesses that are in essence growing through all of this. And what I told them is anyone involved in food production, anyone involved in food distribution, a lot of the restaurants, in particular the fast food restaurants, are all hiring. We saw, you know, a lot of growth, obviously, for some of these businesses that have pivoted to the PPE manufacturing are growing and continue to call us to see how the state might support their growth plans. But the other one, and this one might come as a bit of a surprise, and it's, I don't know how long this wave is going to run, but boat manufacturers here in the state. We have a really strong marine industry, and with, you know, since Charles can't take his trip to Saint-Tropez this summer, he's buying a boat. And so there is, you know, some really good opportunity. Having said that, the boat manufacturers know that when a recession hits, they're one of the first to go. They are the canary in the coal mine. And they have prepared themselves in a number of different ways to make sure that they don't go through what they did in 2006 to 2008, but it's still going to be a struggle. One of the greatest challenges the boating industry is having right now is getting existing employees to come back to work. That's something that we hear from a lot of manufacturers around the state. So just to give you all a little bit of an idea of what we're doing to aid in the response. I'm going to try to go through some of this a little bit quickly. I'd be happy to go into as much detail as you all need, but and please, Charles, Eric, get the hook out if I go too long. But what our existing industry team has been doing a lot of is just providing businesses with a list of COVID-related resources. And so early on, this was things like the SBA's EIDL and the PPP program. After that, as businesses started warming up and getting ready to go back to work, we had them calling and asking for information, and we've provided things out like EPA list of disinfectants that have been known to be effective against the COVID virus, providing them with CDC posters that could be put up in a manufacturing setting so that people understand the need to clean their hands and wear their mask and everything else that they're doing. A lot of different things related to COVID. We've put some things up on our website. You can see it just from the main page, edpnc.com. And that is something that was the most downloaded document that we've ever had out there. I think in the first 2 months, it was downloaded something like 25,000 times. We act as when it comes to existing industry, we act as a conduit out to a lot of other resources in the state. So where things are going now is this is a team that is providing people with an idea of what some of the grant opportunities are. And so they're continuing to do that, especially in regard to the PPE industry, and doing what we can to make sure that throughout this, if there's a way for us to keep that particular industry, the PPE industry, going, we want to do that. Tourism development, obviously we're still getting back there. For those of you who've taken your summer vacation to the mountains or the beach, you know that a lot of these communities are packed at this point. The beaches, certainly. The beaches are seeing rental rates like they've never seen before. And that is largely due to the fact that a lot of people who are planning their trips in April, May, and June weren't able to do it. And so now that they can, they are rushing back to the beaches. But in terms of a big part of what our team does, and our tourism team is known as Visit NC. They do some fantastic work. Any of the advertising you see, the message of promoting North Carolina as a place to visit for vacation is done by this team. They have suspended all of their marketing at this point. Basically, the idea is let's keep the powder dry until a day when people really are traveling again. At this point, your average New Yorker, if they come to North Carolina, they know that they're looking at a 2-week quarantine when they go back. And so rather than market to the people of New York at this point, we're going to hold up and come back strong when we can. This team has done a lot of research into that traveler mindset. What are they looking for? Are they, at this point, are they comfortable with traveling again? We have seen a bit of a spike just in in-state travel, but in terms of folks coming from outside the state, still not quite where we've seen it in the past. And so there's a number of different things that this team has done. It's not a whole lot we can do in terms of marketing and advertising. And so this team teamed up with the North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association to launch the Count on Me NC program. So some of you may have seen that in restaurants and other places where the business owners are having direct contact with their clients. So restaurants, barbershops, other things like that. This Count on Me NC program is essentially a certificate program where we've, between EDPNC, the Restaurant Lodging Association, NC State's School of Food Science, and others, we said, here's a list of some of the online programs that you can take to show businesses that you've got a seal of approval from the state. In essence, to show folks that your employees, your wait staff, your barbers, whoever, have been through a certification program. They understand what the COVID protocols are and how they need to be treating their clients. And so that's been a very popular program and a great way for us to kind of pivot to work on something that we really needed help with. Small business counseling, you know, a lot of it in certainly during the hurricanes, what we see is it's all about getting people access to loans. One of the things that really concerns me, and I would say, you know, I'm happy to come back and talk with this group at any time about this, but what I do know is in the coming months, small businesses are going to be impacted by predatory lending. Here in North Carolina, we've got a laundry list of nonprofit lenders, legitimate nonprofit lenders that can work with small businesses. But your average small business owner may not know about them. And so it's important for us to make sure that message gets out. And so we've been working very closely with the small business community to let people know. I will say this, just another indicator that we're noticing now is that demand for some of the Golden Leaf programs, for example, has really begun to dry up. And what that's telling us is small business owners are not ready to incur any level of debt, any additional debt at this point, because they just don't know how long this particular situation is going to last. And so we find a number of folks are now, some of the loan programs are not really getting the response that we would have hoped for, which is really unfortunate. And it also tells us that, you know, one of the next things we'll see is a wave of business closings. And as I mentioned, you know, well, if you're wondering what keeps me awake at night, what I do know is of those almost 900,000 small businesses, I don't know how many we'll be able to keep through this particular experience. And so that's one of the things that keeps you awake at night. On the international trade side, what was really exciting there was this team was able to make an immediate pivot. Okay, we can't travel internationally anymore, but what can we do? We saw a great uptick for some of our international export education programs last year, and so we started doing more of that. We did a series of webinars. Now that everybody's working from home or not able to travel internationally, we've got a very captive audience, and so we've been working to provide them with the kind of content that they need. Within the world of international trade, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic, there have been two really exciting things that have happened just over the last few months. First one is phase one of the China trade deal. That is something that particularly has an impact on agricultural exports, but that's the Chinese committing to, I think it's around 66 billion in additional imports that they will purchase over the next couple of years. And so getting a hold of that program and making sure that businesses here in North Carolina are aware of some of those opportunities has been important for us. And then on July 1st, the USMCA went into effect. So this is the replacement to NAFTA, the US-Mexico-Canada agreement. People need to know what the differences between those two agreements are. This new agreement is a significant step forward. It's one that addressed a number of the issues that had people concerned with NAFTA. It's made it even more important for those partners to purchase from these three countries. It's one of the things that's addressed some of the open issues, environmental issues, human rights issues, worker benefit issues, and other things. And so we're seeing some good things out there and making sure that people are aware of them. At the same time, as businesses have seen some of their international supply chain impacted, it's been a great opportunity for us to introduce major North Carolina manufacturers to local domestic suppliers. And so we've been doing a lot of that too, to make sure that folks are aware of who's here in their community who can supply some of their needs. Yeah, on the recruitment side, we've gone back to a number of our older opportunities, and we've done a lot with prospecting and trying to build lead flow. This would sound to anyone hearing some of the terms I'm using, you know that this is our sales organization. This is the one that's out there generating new opportunities. And so we're doing a variety of different things that we can, just like any other business would, to kind of keep things going and build our pipeline as much as we can. You know, my take on things is that North Carolina, number one, is in a much better position than a lot of states when I consider our tax base, our infrastructure, our geographic location. There's a whole, the existing workforce. We're in much better shape than others. We're going to recover faster than others, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So I've gone through, I know, how long do we have today? Are we on for just another few minutes?
John, typically we try to finish up at 1:30, but that's not an absolute hard stop. You know, just depends on how much time you'd like to leave for responding to questions.
Sure. So why don't I dive into some of the questions, and then if I've got time, I can go over the last slides.
Sure.
I'm looking at some of them, and Wilson, you've asked if the North Carolina Department of Commerce still works with business development and advising small businesses. So they do and they don't, and so we are essentially a subcontractor. We contract directly with the Department of Commerce for those tasks, and so instead of us reporting directly to the secretary and the governor, the way this was set up, we report to a board. Now, that board is a 19-member board. 8 of those members are appointed by the governor. The secretary sits on that board. 4 are appointed by the House, 4 by the Senate, and I think that's about it. There may be 1 or 2 others. But we are in essence the marketing and sales arm of the North Carolina Department of Commerce. And so there isn't any redundancy. Having said that, what we are selling are a lot of the programs that the state offers. So any of the incentive programs that are offered, we may be the ones out there drumming up the business, but at the end of the day, when it comes to signing a contract to agree to create X number of jobs and receive whatever the benefit might be, folks are working directly with the Department of Commerce. Let's see. Reagan asked about the manufacturers who are having trouble getting their employees back. You know, the federal government was very generous when things finally did get sorted out. The federal government was very generous in terms of their offer, their weekly offer to employees. And then, of course, that's something that can be combined with what the state offers as well. And so in some cases, what we're hearing a lot of examples of is some folks were making more through these benefits than they would if they were working. And so if you've seen out of DC as phase 2 of potential CARES Act is being discussed up there, they're actually talking about dropping the level of some of those benefits. And so I think on the federal level, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $650 per week for some of these employees. And there's been a lot of discussion about how low that would be dropped. Some had suggested $100. So basically trying to get folks to consider coming back to work. Just a couple of notes on employment in the state in general. Well, if I look at the nation overall, between February and April this year, the U.S. lost 22 million jobs. Here in North Carolina, during that same period, we lost more than 600,000. We've continued to lose jobs, but we have gained some back. We've gained about 230,000 back. As I mentioned, a lot of those businesses that I talked about, the ones that were growing, the distribution centers, the food manufacturers, you know, and by distribution centers, I mean any of the grocery distribution centers, and Amazon, the new facility in Garner, they're hiring. And so we're seeing a lot of them growing. We've got a list of these immediate job opportunities listed on our website, and there are hundreds of them. And so it's a matter of getting the folks that need those jobs matched up. But it's still one of those things that, just to give you another sense of what's going on here in North Carolina, in January, our unemployment rate was 3.6%. It grew to 14.7 in April. It has dropped down to about 10% since then, but it's just major, a catastrophic event that we're still struggling to deal with. Linda asks if we're seeing an uptick in businesses trying to relocate from big cities. Let me put you this way, Linda. I would not want to be an economic developer trying to sell the city of New York, for example. And New York is the pinnacle, right? It's the Big Apple. That's where everybody wants to be. You've got to have an office in New York. I wouldn't say we're seeing a major uptick yet. What we're seeing is, more continued steady growth here in North Carolina. One of the other major changes is that I think a lot of businesses, especially those within, those who are based within offices, a lot of those are now considering the ability to keep employees at home and have them work remotely from home offices. I wouldn't say we're quite there to make that complete turn. For example, I mentioned Centene is a new healthcare insurance company that announced that they're going to create 3,200 jobs out in Charlotte. They are going forward with their plans to create a campus. They know that they'll have to offer some remote options to some employees, but they want to keep people. They want people to come in and work there. They're actually even they're talking about building some housing around their campus as well. And so employees can just live right there. Now that's in Charlotte. There's a lot of benefits to doing that. Not everybody else is seeing that. But it is something that it's a benefit here, but we're only just beginning to see some of that happen. There was a time, Mike Walden, who's an economist at NC State, was talking about very early on about this possibly being something that gets people to shift here in North Carolina from the Raleighs and the Charlottes, the Greenboroughs, the Asheville's and Wilmingtons into rural North Carolina. Maybe over time, but not in the next 2 to 3 years. And part of that is because it took a long time for COVID to get to rural North Carolina, but now that it has, it's decimating some communities from a health perspective and from an economic perspective, in that a lot of the small businesses are closing. Kirk was asking about our friends in New Jersey and New York.
You don't have to answer that. That's more of a sarcasm.
No, that's okay. But I will say that is actually something that was discussed. So even as so think about this, the tourism industry was so impacted by this, yet still, when they could open up, this was, when New York's, in terms of being a hotspot, was at its highest. We were not comfortable with folks coming in. And even, you can imagine being a small business owner in Kitty Hawk who's saying, okay, I want to keep the lights on, but I don't need all these people with COVID to come rolling in here. And let's see, Elsa is asking, why are farmers going bankrupt and losing their family farms for the last 3 years? That we need another hour to go over that one. But this is something that, a number of different changes happening there. But I would say there's a couple of really good opportunities for the farming industry, but I would say that even going back into last year, agricultural industry has just taken in the teeth over the last 2 years. Last year, when the Chinese responded to, during the trade war between our two countries, agriculture, what was impacted. I mean, the Chinese knew that that's something that we can, that's the president's soft spot. That's where we can get them. In terms of how that impacted North Carolina, Charles has heard me share that in 2018, we still grow a lot of tobacco here. And in 2018, we did about $165 million in tobacco product sales to China alone. And in 2019, we did virtually zero. They just shut it off. And they can do that. It's not a free market. It's not open. China Tobacco International actually has its office here in Cary, North Carolina. So for the entire Chinese tobacco community, they keep it here. So agriculture continues to be a group that's really feeling volatility in a way that other industries don't. There are some bright spots out there. We're one of the best, I think we're the #1 exporter of sweet potatoes in the nation. We continue to do that. The Germans and the English love sweet potatoes, so we want to match them up as much as we can. But it just becomes harder and harder to run that type of business in this day and age, unless you're one of the big boys.
John, it looks like maybe we got two more questions and then we'll finish up. And then the first one is from Mary Moss, and she's wondering how your organization works with the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce.
Sure, we work hand in hand with the Chamber. One thing that was a very clear message from the General Assembly when the statute was written to create my organization is that we cannot lobby. We are not an advocacy group. And so that message was made very, very clear to us. In terms of who advocates for us to the General Assembly, there is the North Carolina Economic Development Association. They act as an advocate for us, and the North Carolina Department of Commerce. Secretary Copeland has a legislative liaison who can do that work for him. But the other group that acts as that, it's the Chamber. They've got, I think the strongest economic advocacy group in the state. And so they're a fantastic partner. We work very closely with them. I would say our paths cross. They don't cross a lot. Through the pandemic, I found myself working with them more than I did maybe in the previous year. But just another excellent partner and a part of the overall economic development fabric here in North Carolina. But one of the good news, or I think one of the things that makes North Carolina successful is that we have all of these groups working well together. Commerce, the SBTDC, the small business centers at the community college, all the various chambers in the state, the North Carolina Chamber, we all work well together and keep each other informed. And that's better than I've seen in a lot of other states.
Great. And then the final question here is, I think Linda Monahan is wondering if there might be a business opportunity for farmers to deliver their produce direct to consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I would tell you all is, going out to your local farmers market is the best way to find that produce. That may seem like the obvious answer, but I'll just tell you that I'm seeing more and more interest. Part of it is a generational thing. Part of it is just that, we've built these options out. But in terms of John Loyack being able to go out and buy peaches from Anson County, there is no better way for me to do it than to drive over to the farmer's market on a Saturday morning. And so I think that is the best way for us to do that, rather than me having to go to the Harris Teeter and get something that might come in from another state.
All right. Do you have anything final to share with us, John?
I would say it's been rough. Exports, Eric, you mentioned there was an article in the TVJ this morning about exports overall. Exports were down $3 billion from where we were last year. We will recover. We will. Things are, this is something that we've never seen before. It wasn't predicted, but we're going to keep fighting. And so that's my new normal for you all. But I really appreciate having the opportunity to come and speak with you today. And if we can ever be of assistance, Charles knows where to find me.
Great. Well, listen, John, thank you so much for taking the time and coming to talk to us. Anytime I hear people involved in business development just talking, I feel very fortunate to be living in North Carolina, where we have such an amazing and diverse economy. And, we're definitely going through some struggles right now. But thanks to, the good businesses in our state and to people like you that are working to help support them behind the scenes, we'll be back stronger than ever. So thank you for all you're doing, and thank you for coming and sharing with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Excellent. All right. And with that, Rotarians, we will close our meeting as we always do with the four-way test. So please repeat after me of the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill, better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I'm going to end by repeating the plug to go to the farmer's market. We made some peach sorbet with some fresh peaches from the farmer's market this weekend, and it was awesome. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.
All right, see you there. That spells rotary.